DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Taking a look at the all-day slate here. So going game by game and taking a look at some hitting and pitching action. So regardless of whatever slate you're playing, we got you covered here. And overall, it's kind of broken into an early and the main slate, which just starts at 5. But overall, I mean, it's both pretty sizable slates. I think the 5 and 1's a little smaller, so it's not too bad though. Look at the first game here. You got the Mets and White Sox, and this one is interesting because you got two quality arms, except one's been far more quality than the other. You got Jose Quintana going up against Matt Harvey. Quintana, kind of your safe option here, is usually we wouldn't be saying that in the past, but the way he's pitched this season, he's had a relatively high floor, and the strikeout rate has been solid, and this Mets team isn't really good against lefties anyway, so he's a safe play in cash games. GPPs, he has the upside as well. On the other side, I mean, Harvey's priced down as he should be, so 6,200. That's a price tag. I'm going to be throwing in some GPPs just to take a shot at it. Obviously, he's coming off back-to-back negative starts, but this White Sox offense isn't too good. They rank in the bottom half in WOBA. Strikeout rates are fairly average. High risk, high reward play, of course. Overall, I'm not really looking at too many hitting options in this game. It's kind of limited. You might even want to consider some White Sox bats because they're not too expensive. Adam Eaton, Todd Frazier, Jose Abreu, I mean, all below 4,500. So it would be an interesting way to go about it, especially if you're looking to kind of pick on Harvey, who struggled this season. Next game, you got San Francisco and Atlanta. This one, Jeff Samardzija kind of just stands alone as one of the top pitchers on the day. Big favorite going up against a weak Braves offense. You really got to like Samardzija, even at the higher price tag. And it's really how consistent he's been this season. I mean, you got to go back to April 27th when he allowed more than 2 earned runs. So, been very consistent. It should be consistent going here. I'm definitely all aboard on Samardzija today. And as far as the Giants bats go, I'm really looking to pick on full Fulton from both sides. These bats aren't really too expensive. You're looking at Brandon Belt, 3,800, Panic, 38, Duffy and Spanson at 37. I mean, Pence is your highest at 4,500. It's not a bad stacking option. They're projected for 4.5 runs. You're looking at Fulton, who's struggled against lefties. I mean, since 2014, 418 WOBA. Righties have done some damage as well with a 341 WOBA. So overall, I'm all over it. I think the Giants are one of the more playable offenses in that first slate there. Boston-Baltimore, this one does have some rain concerns, but it looks like things are going to probably trail off after the first hour or hour and a half or so. So it's probably going to be a delay, but, being early, I think they kind of waited out and play it. You like the Sox offense yet again. I mean, going up against Wright is something that you're going to pick on, and Wilson. You're going to pick on him quite a bit, especially in Camden Yards. So really 1 through 6. I mean, depending on what that lineup rolls out, you're going to be playing in guys like Jackie Bradley Jr. Decent price on DK here. I don't mind even paying all the way up for bets. But I think you can look lower at some guys there, and guys like Travis Shaw, 4,500, so a little steeper than usual, but overall, I mean, they're priced up for a reason. As far as the Baltimore side goes, I mean, they're all GPP options. Wright's been pretty good this season, so it's kind of tough to pick on him, but overall, I mean, still, maybe they can get some shots on it. I mean, we saw a couple teams put some runs on the board, kind of like Houston the second time around. So the only thing is that Baltimore hasn't seen him yet this season, and that's kind of where his only fault has been as far as Houston, because they got him the second time around. So, I mean, Wright could even be a GPP option, but overall, I mean, it's kind of a high-risk, high-reward situation with the knuckleballer, but that strikeout rate could be up there, especially with Baltimore and their ability to strike out this season. So I would mainly hold off on the Baltimore bats, but if you're looking to build multiple lineups, they're certainly in play. St. Louis and Milwaukee here in Miller Park, so you like that for hitters. I'm not necessarily all over this game. I think the St. Louis bats are priced up a little too high for me. You're looking at Matt Carpenter, 5,100. That's very steep. Piscotty, 5,100. Yes, I don't mind picking on Junior Guerra there, but at these prices, it's a little bit tough. I don't mind going down to a Randall Grichuk, a Matt Adams, a Matt Holliday, 39, 41, 4,300 there. certainly in play. Leonidas Diaz is a cheaper-ish shortstop option, but overall they're kind of priced a little bit too highly for me. But still definitely in play. I'm not really shaking away from them from the matchup. If you're looking at the Brewers side of things, I know Martinez has struggled, but I think there are just far better options on the slate to target. Minnesota and Oakland. This one could be actually kind of sneaky for some value. Not on the pitching side. You're looking at Kendall Graveman. Not really an option on today's slate, even against the bad Twins offense. Irvin Santana. This A's team doesn't strike out quite a bit, and he hasn't really been that great this season. Been very up and down. Overall, I think you can look at some hitters. There are some cheap options. Miguel Sano, always a great GPP option with his power. I don't necessarily mind guys like Danny Valencia or Chris Davis, even though they're not facing a lefty. Billy Burns leading off is certainly playable. If you're looking to punt, I definitely don't mind Stephen Vogt at 3,000. Santana hasn't really been strong against lefties in his career. Decent home run rate as well, so certainly very playable. I think more so on the Oakland side. But I mean, Mauer 4,100. That's not a price tag I want to pay for him. If you're looking at Dozier, I mean, he hasn't been good this season. But he would kind of work himself into a stack because he's 3,600. I think Sano is kind of the only one that's really playable there. Cincinnati and Colorado, and this one, I mean, this is where I didn't like kind of the St. Louis Bats because, one, they're the same exact prices as Colorado, who are facing Dan Straley in Coors. They're also going to face a horrible bullpen. So that's one thing to also consider. Bailey or Straley after that fourth or fifth inning, going to toss it over to that pen. I mean, good luck. This is going to be a series to really target Coors bats more than ever. So I mean, really, all of them are in play. Trevor Story, Carlos Gonzalez, Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon. It's an easy call there to get those names into your lineups. I mean, you're going to have to pay down to pitching to do so. But still very much an option. There are one-off options. I think Arenado is still my favorite at third base there, 5,200. Not quite priced high enough for me. Gerardo Parra, 4,100. It's a nice steal. DJ LeMahieu, if he's hitting in the top of the order, that's going to be very playable again. One guy I do like here, some of these Reds bats are a little bit underpriced, is Brandon Phillips and Zach Cozart, 37 and 3,900 there. You also got Billy Hamilton, 4K. It's much more different from Jay Bruce, Adam Duvall, and Votto, who are all sitting at 4,700. But obviously, you're going to look at guys against Bettis, been a reverse splits guy, and that's where kind of Cozart and Phillips come into play. Bettis has allowed a 356 WOBA to righties, 1.22 home runs per nine since 2014. Lefties have had some success off them as well, 329 WOBA since that span. So certainly playable, but I think those value guys sit in a much better spot as far as points per dollar wise. Next one, Houston and Arizona. This one, you got Eduardo Escobar, who's making his debut this season and going up against the Houston team that's been struggling. DK has priced up this Houston bats even higher than Coors as far as George Springer and Altuve go. I'm not necessarily on them. I think they're an interesting swerve. I would kind of like to pay down in that range there. I don't mind picking on McHugh today, as well as he's pitched of late, because guys like Gene Segura, Jake Lamb, as far as that ballpark concerns, it's been great for power. I think they're certainly playable. You got to take a look at Chris Herman, who 3,400 would be an option if he's behind the dish. Michael Bourne, 2,700, great value on today's slate. So Diamondbacks hold some value outfielders. Brandon Drury's another one at 26. I definitely don't mind picking on McHugh in this ballpark. I think it's pretty favorable. As far as the Houston bats go, more GPP options just at that price tag because it is a pivot off course, but it is a decent matchup. So it is something to consider. But also, I still lean towards the Coors bats, of course. Seattle and San Diego here, and this one, obviously, you're going to look at the Seattle bats going up against Andrew Cashner. Cashner's been dreadful against lefties since 2014, 3.37 WOBA, 1.11 home runs per nine. Obviously, Robinson Cano's in play. I love Kyle Seager's price, 3,800. Nelson Cruz, 42. You're also looking at Adam Lind, Nori Aoki, 3,400. So kind of a good stacking range here, but as well as some one-offs because you do have Cano up top, but guys like Seager, Cruz, and Aoki don't really hurt the price tag, the salary there. So certainly playable. Franklin Gutierrez at 31's in the lineup. He's been hitting the ball well, over 300 of late, couple homers. So I definitely don't mind the Seattle team. Cash game playable for all of them, especially at those prices. Pretty favorable spot. Dodgers and the Cubs here, and this one I kind of like the Cubs bats yet again. They're not too expensive. I mean, you can kind of mix some guys, and obviously Dexter Fowler, who's hit lefties very well, is up there. Ben Zobrist as well, Chris Bryant too, the kind of the usual three suspects. But a guy like Anthony Rizzo, who hit lefties very well last season with some big time power, 3,800 is not a bad price tag, and he's been rather unlucky this year. I mean, a very below average BABIP. Strikeout rate's lower than last season, so there's not much of a concern for me there. Jorge Soler, 3,800, certainly playable. And kind of depending on what some other names pop up, if there's anyone in there, like a Javier Baez or something like that, you could get some value. And that's definitely kind of something to consider. As far as the Dodgers bats go, I think they're down on my list as far as options on today's slate. It's just kind of a tough draw. They haven't been great. They have not been reliable. Upside's been a little bit capped. I mean, outside of really kind of Seager and a couple other names at times. I mean, Justin Turner's kind of turned it on of late, but Hamill's not a guy I'm looking to really pick on there. Texas and Cleveland, and this one I like these Cleveland bats. I love Francisco Lindor, 4,700. Nice price tag. He hits better from the right side of the plate, so you got to like that. Tomlin, Benevert reverse splits guys, so guys like Ian Desmond kind of pop up on my radar. Adrian Beltre at 3,800 is not a bad price tag. I don't mind the lefties there. Mazzara, it's playable. I'm not all over this game as far as offense goes, outside of really just kind of a few names there like Beltre and Lindor. I don't mind Yan Gomes as well at 3,700. He's an interesting GPP play. Does have some power against lefties, so that is something to keep an eye on. Outside of that, I mean, not a fan of Prince Fielder. Mike Napoli would be a guy at 3,300 to keep an eye on, just because he hits better against lefties, and at a 3,300 price tag, it's not bad. Breaking into the later slate, you got Washington and Philly. Obviously, I'm not looking at Philly. I'm looking more so at Tanner Roark. I think it's certainly a playable option. Actually, let me just jump back to Seattle and San Diego real quick. Nate Karns, definitely a cash game guy there. Certainly playable. I like him a lot. We had that stretch of hitters games for a while, but Karns is certainly playable at 9,100 cash and GPP. Decent upside. Has pitched pretty well this season. Back to Washington and Philly, though. Tanner Roark, a playable cash game arm. Looking to kind of attack Hellickson. Not strong against lefties this season. Bryce Harper, 4,600. Not a bad price tag for a guy who is, has 13 homers on the season, coming off, 2 in the last 4. So could be starting to heat up again. I mean, as long as they don't walk him 4 times, I mean, he'll be certainly in play. But at that price tag, I mean, usually we see that in the 5,200, 5,300 range. Outside of that, I mean, Ben Revere will be a guy to look at. Jason Worth, I mean, Ryan Zimmerman are all GPP options. Rendon, Murphy. Murphy's cash playable, of course. But overall, I mean, I can't back this Washington offense with a ton of confidence as far as cash game goes outside of Murphy and Harper. But overall, I mean, they're kind of an intriguing GPP stack. If you did that yesterday, it didn't pay off, even though they scored 11 runs, because it was most of the bottom of the lineup. Frustrating, but overall, I still think on the slate they're a playable option, more so if you're playing that late slate. Toronto and New York, this is kind of where you want to look for a lot of hitters in this late one. Nova, I mean, has not been strong against righties. 346 WOBA since 2014, a big 1.65 home run per 9. You could see a lot of these bats go. He's allowed a 356 WOBA to lefties, 1.19 home runs per 9. So as soon as that Toronto lineup comes out, you could see a cheap Devin Travis hitting up top 3,600. I would really like him, regardless of where he's hitting at 3,600. It's not a bad price tag. Michael Saunders at 41. And then you got the big boys, Encarnacion at 46, Donaldson at 49, Bautista at 5K. All very playable. I love them in that late slate. I even like, if you're playing it all day, maybe kind of waiting it out a little bit and then getting that Toronto game in. Kind of an interesting way. You should get them at lower ownership if you're playing all day, or something else that includes that game. As far as the Yankees bats go, Marco Estrada, I mean, he's going to see him again. Estrada's been a guy who's been good against lefties, but has had some power troubles, 1.45 home runs per 9 since 2014. So I like that. GPP's only for me, looking at guys like Ellsbury and Gardner. You can look at A-Rod if you want, Brian McCann. They're all at cheaper price tags, so it's kind of a boomer bust situation for me. So as far as cash games go, I'm kind of staying away, but more so GPPs. Pittsburgh and Miami, over under 9 here, which is kind of surprising. But with these two lefties on the hill, it's actually not that bad. There's a lot of value in this slate. Obviously, 5,200 for Marcell Ozuna is going to be up there, but the way he's hitting the ball of late, I mean, he's a guy who's consistently bringing in points night in and night out. But you can also look at those Pirates bats like Marte and McCutcheon a little bit cheaper. I definitely like the range a little bit lower as far as value goes. Guys like Jung Ho Kang, 3,800, Heckavaria, 37, Martin Prado, 36, Francisco Cervelli, 36, Mercer, Freeze, both 36 as well. So that whole range is opens up a lot of value on today's slate. I mean, all those guys hit lefties well. These lefties are average at best. Definitely opens up a lot of cash game guys, guys you can mix and match as far as high price and punts and whatever you want to do there. Also, it makes for an interesting game stack as far as value, especially if you're paying up for pitching. So I definitely don't mind that at all. As far as the Tampa Bay and Kansas City game goes here, I don't mind Ian Candy as a GPP option. I'm not on that Andrees against this Royals team at 10-2. That's ridiculous. Candy, I mean, he's struggled a little bit of late. Home run prone. I mean, he's allowed 5 in the last 3 starts. He always has been. You look at these raised bats, and you're going to get them at a cheap price tag, and that's something that you kind of want. These are GPP bats only. You're looking at Logan Morrison, Steve Pearce, Brad Miller, Evan Longoria. Those guys are in play there. Corey Dickerson at 3,400. They're all boomer busts on today's slate, so you are taking a risk, and they do have a low floor. But if you're not going with Candy and GPPs, I think they are a viable kind of option. Because as I mentioned, I think both sides are quite boomer bust. Detroit and LA here, and this one, Verlander is certainly in play even at 10-9 on the late slate. Safe betting favorite there, so you got to like that. He's been pitching pretty well this season, so overall, I mean, he's been above 20 points, nearly 30 in the last four starts he's made, and back-to-back 10 strikeout performances, 8 strikeouts before against Baltimore, 9 against the Twins. This Angels team doesn't strike out quite a bit. I mean, they're below, I believe, 19% on the season, so that is something to note at his price, but still on that smaller slate, he's certainly going to be playable as far as a cash game guy. Maybe you might want to look elsewhere for GPPs if you want a higher strikeout upside. But overall, I mean, he is playable in all formats. Shasin's a guy who I think you can pick on with some of these bats. He's been pretty average against right-handed pitching or right-handed hitters in his career. 327 WOBA. The only thing you don't like here is really the ballpark. I don't necessarily like a lot of the pricing. Miguel Cabrera 5,100 is a little bit steep. Kinsler 53 is not really on my radar. I do like Victor Martinez as a come-down option at 37. I do like J.D. Martinez at 44. Also, Cameron Maybin, Castellanos, both at 36 and 3,700 is not a bad price tag. As far as the Angels bats go, I'm really only looking at Mike Trout, 4,500. He's obviously in play. Verlander's not the elite arm that he used to be as far as scaring me off hitters, even though he's been very good this season. But at 45 for Mike Trout is certainly very much in play. That's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Enjoy your Memorial Day, and be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for all our great tools and content.